the Singer Island monster, and it's known as the Lake Worth Lagoon monster, which Singer Island is right next to Lake Worth Lagoon. So over generally in the area of West Palm Beach, there is this Lake Worth Lagoon, and this Gene Sauerwein guy started noticing these unusual animals and started videotaping them. And I guess he posted some of them online and it started picking up in the news, and he was eventually contacted by the people at Monster Quest, which was a TV show back in the early 2000s or middle 2000s. And I was actually on the first episode, the one about Champ.
Yeah, I've watched that one for sure.
Anyway, you look at Sauerwein's videos, and most of them seem to be showing manatee-like humps and a vaguely manatee-ish looking head popping up every now and then. And these weird tails, sometimes they look trident, as like if they, like a three-pronged tail. Other times you see what look like jagged things, almost like the tail of an alligator going down them. They're different shapes. Now, a lot of people think most of these videos are showing manatees whose tails have been mutilated by boat propellers. And this happens a lot, and there are plenty of manatees out there with weird-looking tails that have jagged tails where chunks of them are missing, and some of them have been split into three parts, And a lot of people are convinced that that is the primary explanation for this Lake Worth Lagoon monster.
It would make sense.
I am inclined to agree with a lot of that, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, some people have speculated that there may be some kind of a weird seal coming in, and that may be the explanation of it, at least part of this monster footage, because some people looked at some of the videos and say, no, that doesn't look like a manatee, it looks like a seal of some kind. Well, just so happens I recently found this out in 2007. An Arctic seal called the bearded seal wound up near Jacksonville in this river called the Tarpon River.
That's insane.
So, yeah, nobody knows why or how it got there, but it was there, and I'm highly doubtful that somebody had a bearded Arctic seal as a pet and released it. So obviously this animal came from the Arctic, it swam south and somehow wound up in South Florida. Don't ask me, they rescued it and took it back to Greenland as far as I know. But that really happened.
Wow, that's insane.
And then around 2001, 2002, a Florida manatee swam all the way to Connecticut. Now think about that.
Yeah, it's a long trip.
You've got an Arctic seal swimming from the Arctic to South Florida. Then you've got a Florida manatee swimming to New England. So, who knows? I'm sure it probably doesn't happen a lot.
But it does happen.
But you can't 100% rule out, that some weird marine animal that's not supposed to be where it is might be seen down here occasionally.
Definitely.
So anyway, there is another piece of footage that Gene Sauerwein got that does not look like a seal or a manatee. And a lot of people said, well, hey, look at this piece of footage. That might be a mosasaur, which was one of these prehistoric marine reptiles from the age of the dinosaurs that basically looked like a Komodo dragon with flippers. You can imagine that. And a shark tail. So anyway,
that's insane.
If you look at that particular video that I'm talking about, the one with that mosasaurus looking head, if you really, really, really look at it, it looks like a crocodilian. So alligators occasionally come into salt water, and lately large Nile crocodiles, which also can survive in salt water, have been popping up in South Florida too. probably released pets.
Wow.
Why anybody would want a crocodile that would eventually grow into a 20-foot man-eating crocodile for a pet is beyond me, but they got here somehow, so.
That's scary.
And there's also an American crocodile. They're normally only found in deep South Florida, down around the Keys. One of those turned up in Tarpon Lake, I think in 2013.
Uh-huh.
They had to capture it and take it back to South Florida. So who knows,
Yeah.
Anyway, there's been a lot of attention on Gene Sauerwein's videos, and I don't know. If, in other words, imagine you got a situation here in this Lake Worth Lagoon where you've got alligators, sharks, manatees, rays, all coming through the same area. And some of them will, occasionally pop up to the surface and go back down. Maybe even sea turtles, too. I don't know. It's entirely possible. So if you've got all these different people seeing brief, fuzzy glimpses of known animals, and then you sit them all down at a table and say, okay, describe your monster. And one guy's describing a sea turtle, and one guy's describing part of a manatee, and another guy's describing an alligator, and one guy saw a shark's dorsal fin, and you try to make an identikit from this stew, you're going to come up with something that doesn't look like any of those animals, but looks like a monster. So
Definitely.
I think maybe something like that might be part of what's going on. But I'm not trying to insult Gene Sauerwein or any of the other people that claim to have seen something. I'm just saying maybe,
Definitely possible. How do we find his videos?
I mean, honestly, don't know. But a lot of the videos that were shown on the Monster Quest TV program look like manatees.
So if we want to watch those videos,
and the mutilated tails. So it's the idea that at least some of them are manatees with mutilated tails is very credible. I'm not saying that's exactly the only answer, but I'm saying that I think it's highly likely that some of those videos are, and I believe that one video is of an alligator or a crocodilian of some sort.
So if we want to watch those videos, it's the Monster Quest episode.
Yeah, you can Google Monster Quest, Florida Monster, and it should take you right to it, the full thing on YouTube.
Nice.
All right, so we got about 7 minutes, so I've got to get in the Indian River carcass, the New River Inlet carcass. So let me get that in as quickly as possible, and then we'll have to pee on the fire and call in the dogs. Let's see.
That's fine.
This happened in 1885 at a place called the Indian River, which is down south of West Palm Beach, south of the Lake Worth Lagoon, but on the same coast. So it says, in August of 1885, Reverend Mr. Gordon of Milwaukee, the president of the American Humane Society, as well as various companions, examined the carcass of a large sea creature that was found on the shore of the New River Inlet, Florida, St. Lucie County. Witnesses described the carcass as being up to 42 feet long and 6 feet in diameter, with 2 flippers or forefins and an apparent long, slender neck. Sadly, a storm washed the carcass back to sea, leaving skeptics to believe the carcass was another basking shark carcass. Now, as I was talking about last week about how these sharks can occasionally lose their lower jaws and it gives the appearance of a long neck.
Definitely.
And the cranium left without the jaws looks like a snake or turtle-like head. So that's, these regularly happens in nature with basking sharks, and occasionally can happen with other types of sharks too, but it's primarily associated with a basking shark.
And how
so
big
basically
are...
what you had, the description of the creature was 42 feet long, with no back flippers, a long tail, a big fat body, what looked like a long neck, 2 front flippers, and no head. It was missing a head.
You say 42 feet?
The head up. Yeah, yeah.
And
which is
how big do
larger
basking sharks get?
Normally they get about 27 feet long.
Wow.
But, so who knows? Another idea that might explain this carcass is a mutilated whale carcass. Have you ever heard stories about a sea monster from South Africa called Trunco?
It sounds familiar, but not...
All right, well, that turned out to be a whale carcass. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what kind it was. But there are sometimes cases where whale carcasses wash ashore, and the head becomes detached from the rest of the body, and the skin in between stretches out and looks like a long neck or an elephant's trunk.
Mm-hmm.
So if this thing was a similar whale carcass, which the size is a better fit too,
Definitely.
it could have been, a whale carcass of some kind, similar to this Trunco animal from South Africa. There are pictures of Trunco online if you want to check it out. Anyway, there's also a third possibility that this could be the carcass of one of these long-necked monsters that we've been talking about, like in the St. Johns River and up in the Panhandle, that may have actually found a dead one. But it was washed back out to sea. But this president of the American Humane Society who saw it went to, I believe, the American Museum of Natural History. There was a scientist there, paleontologist named, or marine biologist, can't remember off the top of my head, but a guy named F.A. Lucas. I believe he was a paleontologist. Anyway, based on this Mr. Gordon's description, he made that sketch that you can see in the montage I put together. That you want to get a sketch.
Yeah.
So that was in 1885. We have no pieces of the New River Inland carcass, but it's the closest thing to a smoking gun for a dead body for these long-necked Florida monsters that we had.
And in that sketch, the tail is pretty long.
Yeah, but we don't know. If it's a mutilated carcass, we don't know what pieces of fins are gone from that or what. So it resembles some of the basking shark carcasses we know, but like I said, I don't know. It's got no back flippers, which resembles the reports of the Altamaha up in Georgia. So I don't know. And it also looks vaguely like the drawing of the Lake Powell monster from Destin. So
yeah, definitely.
We got 2 minutes. If you want to.
You want to talk about the three-toed penguin in the Tarpon Lake?
Well, it's not enough time now.
It's okay.
I wanted to get it in, but
if you want to go ahead and cover that real quick, we can.
Well, it's just there was back in the 1940s, there were what appeared to be giant three-toed footprints being found on the beach in Clearwater, Florida. 40 years later, a man confessed that it was a hoax and that he was going around with these iron feet that he had made and put on boots, went around making the footprints. But he, like I said, he didn't confess until the late 1980s.
Yeah.
And around the same time that the stories were getting started back in the late 40s, early 50s, reports of a dinosaur-like bipedal creature with three-toed footprints began popping up at nearby Tarpon Lake. And, this is like somebody describing something along the lines of a T-Rex.
Yeah.
But with a longer neck. Something along the lines of, Spinosaurus dinosaur, amphibious fish-eating dinosaur that has legs with feet. So they were allegedly finding footprints like that at Tarpon Lake. Myself, I'm